everybody, welcome back to the Replay Podcast. Well, what could be the final episode?
What?
Oh my god, of the Replay Podcast as you know it. But don't worry, we're not going anywhere. There just might be a few changes. So, as usual, I'm your host this week. My name is Pagan, and I am I'm blessed with the presence of Dan, my lovely co-host.
Why you gotta be trolling people like that?
Yeah, do you have well, actually, you do have, like, this light gap in your curtains that gives you, like, this little halo. Yeah, blessed with your presence. Thank you. Thanks,
Hello.
As if it's, like, a choice.
Yeah. I'm not here against my will at all.
Yeah. You'll say what you're going to say, right? You're going to say what I paid you to say. We've been on a little bit of a hiatus.
Hold on, Squid Game reference. For those of you.
I still haven't watched that. We need to
get on it.
We've been on a little bit of a hiatus, guys, so I do apologize for gap in our content, but we're hopefully going to start churning out some content pretty regularly, and there will be a few changes that that you guys should know about, I guess. So let's run into some of those for you. Yeah, let's catch them up. The first of the bigger changes, I think, really, is that we're no longer going to be a weekly podcast. We will run we'll run episodes every 2 weeks, fortnightly or bi-weekly, whichever way you want to say that. Fortnightly? No, just fortnight. This is now just a fortnight podcast. Yeah.
We are now a fortnight
I hope we're all down for this. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't tell you that before, but that's just what this is now.
Oh, okay.
You're welcome.
I don't like Fortnite.
Yeah. Get on board.
Bad,
get on board, buddy. And of course, we're probably going to have a new name and possibly a new logo and design and a new look to the Replayer Podcast, as you know it. So it will change. But other than that, we don't really have that many actual changes to structure or content, really, Dan, right? I mean, I don't think we're going to be changing too much.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to basically kind of stick to some of the stuff that we've been doing most recently with the podcast. So anyone who's been listening to, like, some of the episodes we've been doing the last couple of months, we've been very much more kind of game focused. So, like, going forward, we're going to kind of stick to that formula of more of a short gaming focused podcast with some news and updates, talking about new games, what's coming out, and what we're playing currently. And also, we're going to continue to try to tie in with content that the Couch Soup website is continuing to produce and working with the creators and contributors for the website. So we'll continue to bring in contributors as guests on the show to talk about things that they're passionate about, something they might have written about on the website, and any other future projects they might be working on, as long as hopefully some fun special guests. We'll see.
Yeah, hopefully some fun special guests. There may be something in the works. Who knows? But yeah, we will also be hopefully having some more of our guest audience come on. So if you're a listener of our podcast and you would like to come on the show, we will leave a contact in the notes and as well at the end of the show, just so where you can email us. If you would like to be on, our door is kind of always open. That's kind of our MO. That was what we started with, and it's probably always what we're going to have, is if you ever want to come on or leave a voice message or have your say on some topic that we'll be discussing, let us know. So, yeah, you'll still see a few friendly faces, of course. We've still got the regular contributors of the Couch Soup website. Yeah, friends of the show. They will, of course, still be on here. Like I said, we're pretty open as well. So, we're going to have a little bit of progress, a little bit of change here. So, you probably will not recognize a few things. Might introduce a few segments. And like we said, have some special guests on the show. But mostly everything should be fine. But just bear with us while we're transitioning, I guess, and while we're figuring stuff out. Yeah, well, we're just. I think Couch Soup obviously dropped, and everyone was like, "What?"
Huh?
And it's like left a lot of us to figure out what we would like to do.
Yeah.
And I think this is a good step for us, and it'll like really push us in the right direction to like hold our own.
Yeah, I mean, replayers will never die, but with no
True.
retro replay, what is the Replayer Podcast? And that's kind of the questions we're asking ourselves. So.
Yeah, exactly. But we know that we like to talk.
Right.
I sure do. I like to talk an awful lot, so we are still going to continue talking about video games. Probably the odd spot of pop culture in here and there, like with movies, references, TV shows, etc. But mostly video game podcasts, and we'll try and hold that down for you all. And speaking of which, let's dive right into this week's topic, which is Metroid Dread.
Yes.
Bum, bum, bum. Honestly, that I feel like is there a hint in the name? Because it's Metroid Dread. Am I dreading this? Is this something that I need to dread? I don't know. I don't know anything about Metroid other than the very short and sweet episode that we got in Retro Replay. So, Dan, I feel like you might know a bit more about this. So why don't you tell me a little bit more about Metroid?
Absolutely. So Metroid Dread came out on October 8th, a few days ago. I've been able to play a couple of hours of it so far. And the name Dread, it very much ties into a lot of the core mechanic that they've put into this new game, because it directly translates to segments of the game where you're actually hunted and you can't do anything about it and you will die. It's actually quite terrifying.
I have no idea. I've never played Metroid. I don't know anything of this context. I know it's been out and people have been pushing me to play it. But what? You get hunted? Do you, can you escape that at all? Do you get alerted when you're hunted?
Yes. So I can give you some background. This is the first time in the series that this has happened. No other Metroid game has really had this dynamic. Let's back up to the original Metroid from 1987 was based off of Alien, the movie.
I was just going to say, this seems an awful lot like Alien or Alien versus Predator, this kind of world here. Am I on something?
Well, I'm not going to go into the full
on the right track?
history, but I know when Nintendo made Metroid, they basically saw Alien and said, we want to make a game about that, essentially. And they came up with their own spin. So they developed Metroid, and in the original game, you're Samus Aran or Samus Aran. I've always said Aran. And I've heard it. Aaron. No, I stuttered.
I can't not hear that.
Aaron. She's a bounty hunter, and essentially, the first game in the series was an original Nintendo game, and it started the whole genre of what a Metroid game is. Now, Metroid Dread is part 5 in that series, which is from 1987. It's been 35 years in the making. And we finally have a part 5. The last game to come out in the series was Metroid 4, Metroid Fusion, that came out on the Game Boy Advance. 2002. Yeah, it's been that long.
Wow. So this has been a long time. People have been waiting a very long time.
Yeah.
Almost 20 years.
Yeah, and I mean, there's been Metroid games in between there, but this is the first new mainline Metroid game since then. And with that,
Is that why...
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, is that kind of why it's super important that this game was launched? I mean, I remember when the trailer dropped and everyone was losing their shit.
I did, for sure.
Yeah, and obviously I don't know anything about these games. I can't say that I'm not a fan of them because I've never played them, so I'm sure I might be. But is that why? Is because of this massive time gap that we didn't have, I guess, an official part 5?
If you look at the original announcement, I believe during that presentation, Nintendo actually said that the reason Metroid Dread took so long to be made was they didn't have the tech. I'm not going to... It's not a quote directly, but they basically were saying they wanted to make Metroid Dread earlier, but they couldn't get it to work and play the way they wanted it to at the time. So it's taken this long for them to be like, okay, now we can make Metroid Dread. And this comes off of the last Metroid game to come out was Metroid Samus Returns, which was a 3DS game, and it's also a remake of Metroid 2. And that game was developed by a dev studio called Mercury Steam, and they actually have a kind of a history of making Metroidvanias. So now they also made Metroid Dread. It very much has the same DNA that they established with the remake in Samus Returns. But man, the dread is real. It is real.
It does. So I've heard a lot about this, being incredibly difficult to play. There's been quite a few things on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram where people are like, "Hey, this game is really fucking hard."
I guess that's subjective.
Is that right? Would you say that? Okay.
Because hard, yes, there are parts of the game that are tough. There are tough boss battles, there are tough enemies that are a little tricky to kill or to get past. I think it's because what Metroid Dread does really well is it's very classic. It's very old school, but still a new game. It sticks to what the original game had established in the old Metroid games and adds a lot of cool new modernizations, but also is very old school. So if you die in the game, thankfully the game has a really forgiving checkpoint system where if you do die, you will go to a checkpoint of like whatever the last major action you completed, like usually like an elevator, going through a door, like leading up to a boss fight. In the old games, if you died, you went back to your save, and you had to catch everything back up.
Okay.
So it can be tough. I would say.
Can you change the? I just wanted to cut in there with regarding to that difficulty level where you're saying that it can be tough. Can you change that difficulty level?
There is no difficulty setting.
Okay. All right. So we're all in it, like
just,
real deep
it is.
now.
This is it. You press start and you go. There's no. There's no difficulty setting. I would say anyone who thinks the game is difficult might just not be used to that style of game. Whereas I grew up playing these games and I love Metroidvanias. Like Metroid is half of Metroidvania. That's the game that like defined the genre. And if you don't know what a Metroidvania game is, it's hard to sum it up into a few short words, but it basically comes down to an exploration game that revolves around finding power-ups to proceed forward in the game world. Like, you'll find a door, and it's like, oh, I can't open this door because I need something. You keep playing, you find that something, and you're like, cool, now I can go back and open that door. And then opening that door leads you on to more progress and mystery and more locked doors.
Cool. And this is very much the same style of, like, the original one that I'd seen on, obviously, the YouTube episode, Retro Replay. It's like a 2D platformer?
Yep.
Am I right?
2D side-scrolling platformer.
So okay, and this is the same, right?
Yep, it maintains that same style of gameplay.
Okay. Yeah, how does that feel, though, like, in a modern context?
In this one, it's actually one of the best and smoothest feeling Metroid games I've ever played. Like, it just, it feels absolutely fantastic to play the game. And I'm actually going to go ahead and pop this up here.
Yeah, go for it. Nice.
So, back to that, Metroid Dread is one of the best playing Metroid games I've ever played. And I've played pretty much all of them. It is a 2D side-scrolling, like, puzzle platformer. A lot of the combat in itself is a puzzle. The bosses are a puzzle. Figuring out how to get from one side of the map to the other is a puzzle. And it looks fantastic. Like, you can see some of the video we're watching here for our visual listeners that the game actually looks really good. It's still very much a Nintendo game. It's not quite as polished as, say, like a PS5 or an Xbox Series X game, but it's buttery smooth. It's like Nintendo has just found a way to make games look really well, even though it's not quite as, bombastic with the graphics.
I was going to say, is this, do you find it as such a smooth game because it's Nintendo? Like, this, do you feel like this would work on any other console or PC?
Absolutely. I think it would work on any platform. I mean, when I say it's smooth, I'm also very much reflecting on old Metroid games, because if you go back and play the original Metroid after playing this, you're like, man, this feels so clunky. This feels so rough. Here's actually one of the Emmys murdering me. Like, you straight die.
Good times.
But if you go back and play like the old Metroid games, it's very clunky. They very much refined the combat over the years, and have found just, again, this is Mercury Steam's second game in the series, and they've nailed it as far as the combat goes.
Yeah, it looks great. I have to say, like, it definitely does feel like looking at it, I think maybe just those platformers, the 2D side-scrolling platformers, they just fit really well on a Nintendo. Like, they just feel much better on a Switch, if you know what I mean, because you have it in your hand, and I prefer those kind of games.
I've only played the game on big screen so far. I haven't even played it in handheld mode. But I love these style of games. I play them across the board on Xbox, PC, Sony, whatever. I love these style of games.
I see. Cool. And are there, like, any achievements or anything? Is there a story to this game, by the way? Like, is there a story that comes across in because you said this is part 5, right? So I presume that there's some sort of cohesive story throughout all of them, or no?
Yeah, to answer your first question, achievements, no, because it is a Nintendo platform, and
Nintendo game,
Nintendo doesn't really do achievements for whatever reason. Sometimes games will have in-game achievements.
That's fair.
But this one doesn't have any kind of in-game achievement system.
Okay.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they did that to avoid spoilers, as far as like what kind of things you might see or experience in the game.
Okay,
Story-wise, the story is there, but in Metroid's history, it's always presented very much through context. With Metroid Dread, it's one of the first games, as you can see, that has a lot of cutscenes, but those cutscenes are predominantly action. And you're kind of seeing, like, Samus just being a badass, like, blasting this big monster in the face.
Yeah, who doesn't want to see that?
In very traditional Nintendo style, there's minimal voice acting. There's not a lot of dialogue. The majority of the actual talking in the game is an AI computer that's basically talking to you about what's happening and what you need to do. And as of yet, I have yet to hear Samus speak. Not that she hasn't in the past in other games, though.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. That's interesting. I didn't know that she had a voice in any of the other games, but that's interesting.
Yeah, yes and no.
Sorry, I'm like so caught up in these graphics. They're so good. Like, I definitely see what you mean by saying that it's like buttery smooth. Like even just moving between levels or moving between sequences and screens and stuff, it looks great.
Yeah, and you'll see, like, one of the things they added to this game that the old ones didn't have that adds to that is the slide ability. Samus has never been able to slide before, and it plays a huge part into your movement and momentum. Almost every boss encounter that I've had, almost every situation requires you to slide, especially when you're trying to escape the Emmys. That's the name of the robots that are chasing you and trying to kill you. You have to slide to get through.
It's not like Drew Lewis chasing, like, escaping the Emmys from the television awards. Yeah. He's just like, oh god, not another Emmy.
Yeah. So even there, like, when an Emmy grabs you, you have one chance to break free, and it's super hard to time. And if you miss, it's game over. You're dead. So that's where the dread comes into it. It's very, like, these moments of running away from the Emmy are very intense and like, oh god, it's gonna get me. And it's just... Yeah,
that gives me anxiety. Like, the fact that it's called Dread and you actually dread getting caught by something like that, it gives me anxiety. But coming from, like, I guess an inexperienced gamer in terms of Metroid, would you recommend this game to somebody who's never played a Metroid game before?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
That's a hard yes, especially if you are...
Hard yes?
If you're new to the series, but you like puzzle platformers, if you like Metroidvanias... The beauty is, this is Nintendo saw what a lot of other companies started doing as love letters to Metroid and making it better. There's a lot of games out there like Hollow Knight and Axiom Verge.
Oh, yeah.
Those are Metroidvania games, and they very much took the formula of Metroidvanias and made them better. And I think Nintendo saw that and said, we need to do that. So this has got some of the best I've seen in the series. Some people will probably argue that it's not the best Metroid game, but so far, in my experience, as someone who didn't play the original first, because I think my first Metroid game was actually Fusion, and then I played the remake of the original Metroid, which is Zero Mission, and then I played Super Metroid, and I've played Metroid Prime, and I've played all the Metroid Prime games, but those are all different games, and they have a different story. So for me, so far, this is easily one of the best ones I've played.
Very interesting. And do you have like a rating on this game? Like, if you were to rate this game out of 10, what would you rate it? Have you completed this game, by the way, or are you still playing?
I'm still very... Okay. I've only played about 4 hours or so, and there's quite a bit going on, and it's probably going to take me a couple more days to finish.
Okay. Well, so far, how are you finding it? What would you rate it?
As of now, without having completed it, I would give it like a 9 out of 10.
Whoa, really?
Oh, yeah. For me, at least. Like,
wow.
For me, it's a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
It's definitely a Dan game, but that's to be clear, that it's a Dan game for sure.
It's a Dan game? What do you mean by that? Like, do you mean that it's just like a retro style, or?
It's a game that I enjoy very heavily and I vibe with, especially the style. Like, it might not be a Pagan game. You know, like,
that's
you might pick it up and be like, this is cool, but it's not for me, that kind of thing.
Okay, that's fair.
You know, so
I like it.
It's definitely more based on if it's your preference or not. If you're a fan of Metroidvanias.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's really hard if you're trying to recommend a game. Like, you have to consider who they are and what their play style is like and what games they like to play. But that's fair. It's really interesting that you're already rating it 9 out of 10, even though you've just in the beginning, say just within the first 4 or 5 hours of playing. But seeing those graphics and everything, it does look very smooth. The it's interesting how like they're really good graphics, but it is 2D, if you know what I mean. Like it doesn't lose anything. The fact that it's a 2D side scroller, looks interesting. I think I might pick it up or play it. No, I know that Adam is going to get it or has gotten it or something. So he will definitely be trying that out. So I might just pick up his version and see what it's like.
Yeah, definitely give it a shot. The first few stages will probably be okay for you. When you start hitting some of the bosses is where you're going to start probably struggling a little bit. Because
rage quitting? I'm out. Bye.
Here's the thing, though. Like any good part of the game, the bosses themselves are puzzles. And you have to figure out how to beat that puzzle. So...
yeah. I think there's like some of that is, you know, I remember all of that from like Crash Bandicoot. Like, what a throwback. You know, when you come across those boss fights or something, you really have to figure out the puzzle and which way the best way to defeat them is.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd say this is probably a lot harder, but probably a bit more intricate.
Yeah. You can easily die if you're not careful and not paying attention to your health, too, in the game. So that's usually like, there's a couple of times where I die and be like, wait a minute. Wait, how did that happen? And I realized, I actually only had like a few hit points left. I thought I had a lot more because I'm not paying attention how many times I'm getting hit by something.
I see. Is there any like user interface in terms of like when you're doing, like, can you upgrade your character or anything like that? Is there
absolutely
a point system that way? Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you've never played a Metroid game.
No.
Even from the original game, the way that Metroid is structured is as you explore, you find upgrades to your health as well as your missiles, your armor, your abilities. So health is something to energy. You start with 99 energy points, and you pick up energy tanks. Every energy tank gives you another 99 points of energy, and it basically expands your health as you play. And similarly, missiles, you get more missiles as you pick up upgrades for it. You pick up better suits, you upgrade her armor, she takes a little less damage, or you get like special abilities that help you take less damage. So there's a progression system in it without it being like a hard RPG kind of progression.
Okay.
It's definitely more old school in that way.
A little retro, but hey, we like that.
But that's what excited me too when they first announced this game, and I was like, oh, and then when they showed gameplay, and I'm like, oh my god, it's a 2D Metroid. Like, that was really exciting.
Now, I do have a question about that, though. Because of this like excitement around this 2D side-scrolling platform, Metroid, that's very similar to the old game. I do know that there is going to be a first-person shooter version of Metroid coming out. Do you think this has kind of stolen that thunder? Do you think that's going to be like, nah, it's going to be hard to beat?
No, not at all.
Oh, really? Are you looking forward to the first person?
Yeah, because it's part 4 in the Metroid Prime series.
Yeah, I get it. But I presume all of the other games have also been 2D, or no?
All the Prime games are first-person 3D games.
Okay, so there has been other Prime games so far?
Yes, this is actually the 4th one that we're waiting on.
Oh, okay. I didn't know this.
Like, I have no idea. No, Metroid Prime...
No, I'm just wondering, because I think, like... Oh, go ahead.
Metroid Prime came out on the GameCube. And it was actually one of the best games I had ever played at that time. Like, it was phenomenal, and it still is. And Metroid Prime 2 was still really good. Metroid Prime 3 was really good. They announced Metroid Prime 4 in 2017, and it was just a logo, and it was like, yay! And then it's like, here we are, waiting.
Yes, COVID happened.
Yeah, well, there was other factors in that too, because originally they had a different studio making it.
Oh, I see. Okay,
and now
changed studio.
The original studio that made Metroid Prime wasn't on 4. Then they stopped development with the new studio and went back to the old studio. So now the original studio that made the first 3 games is making 4.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good news for the fans, I guess, if they're liking the first 3. Yeah. Right, okay. Interesting.
I think that Metroid Dread fits fine, and I don't think it's going to steal anything from one or the other, because Dread is the flagship of the mainline series, and Prime will always be Prime, and they're kind of like...
I see, okay.
They're like 2 ends of the same coin, essentially. Like, I don't think they'll ever overlap with each other. And then there's the bastard game Other M, which people don't like to acknowledge exists. But I actually really liked Other M. Somebody out there's going to call me out on this, I know, but I will fight you. Other M was a good game.
Do it, chat. Do it.
Other M was a good game.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. I definitely think I'll try Metroid Dread. I'll pick it up, see what all the fuss is about. If you've listened to this or you're watching this, let us know in the comments if you've played this before, or if you're interested in playing it now. Oh, wow. Old school fan. Die hard, die hard.
Yes. This was the
Nice.
Mercury Steam 3DS remake of Samus 2. I've got my Samus 3DS.
Oh my god.
Dork. that's been our thing. Dork.
I don't know what that sound was. But yeah, let us know in the comments if you played Metroid Dread. What do you guys think of it? Would you recommend it? Do you think it's really hard? Would you have liked the ability to change your difficulty level?
No.
I'd be really interested in hearing that because I know that there's a lot of people that are like, it's way too difficult. Other people are saying that it's not.
That does not need a baby mode. Just get good, Pagan.
How dare you, sir? How dare you? I play everything on baby mode. I like the baby mode. I just like to play something without being frustrated. Thank you.
Well, it would defeat the purpose of, even on baby mode, how would you deal with the Emmys? Because they kill you in one hit, essentially.
Yeah, maybe they would kill you in 2 hits in baby mode. I don't know. I don't make the rules, Dan.
It wouldn't be as dreadful.
Oh my god! It's a pun, but it works because you're totally right. That's true. Maybe they should make it Metroid Dread less.
Dreadless.
Or something. Metroid less Dread.
Metroid baby.
And then the people with high anxiety like me can just play those games and not
just go play
worry about
Smash
freaking
Brothers
out.
and put it on easy mode, and then you're playing baby Metroid.
Fine. Yep, that makes sense to me. Yeah.
All right.
Do you want to throw us out?
Take us out. Yeah. So thank you guys for joining us for this new-ish episode of the Replayer podcast as we make some changes and
Newish.
try some different things here, and join in the discussion as we talked about Metroid Dread, and let us know if there's any other games you want us to discuss on the show. We've got lots of new ideas moving forward that we want to talk about, and as always, you can reach out to us and message us at the replayerpodcast@gmail.com. Is that game over?
Thanks, everybody. You guys have been awesome. I think this has been nice, and so far, we just want to thank you all so much for your support for the Replayer podcast. I think it's important to acknowledge that we wouldn't be here without the community and without Retro Replay anyway, and we're happy to continue our journey with Couch Soup and see where that leads us. If you like this kind of podcast, these short and sweet, simple kind of interview style, did you play this? What did you think? Kind of episodes. Do let us know. Give us your feedback.
What are you playing, Pagan?
What am I playing right now?
No, what are you going to play for the next episode? Oh, you're still working.
Oh, for the next episode, I don't know. I could be stuck in some Age of Empires because there's some good shit coming.
I'm excited.
And it's very exciting.
You got to beat Kana, and then I can drill you about Kana.
Okay, let's do that. I'll finish Kana for the next one, and then we can talk about the latest Age of Empires coming up.
Sweet. I'm excited.
Sweet.
All right. Game over, folks.
Game over, folks. Bye. Fucking love that freaking song.